The next type of loop I'd like to talk about is the for loop. And when we use the for loop, it's because we want to execute something a set number of times. With the while loop, we weren't really sure how many times the loop needed to run. We were basically just waiting for a condition to show up. In the case of our guessing game, the while loop was used because we didn't know at the start how many guesses a user would take to get it right. But when we use a for loop, we're always going to know what the maximum number of times run will be. For this reason, for loops are usually used to count things or loop through a list of items whose size we know. Here's a little code example of a for loop. For int equals I less than 10, I++. That means create a variable I started at 0. Run the code in the code block between the curly braces until I becomes greater than or equal to 10. Add 1 to I each time through the loop. So we just put a console write line I in there. You can see it prints out the starting value of 0, and it adds 1 each time until it gets to 9. When I becomes 9, the next time through the loop, when that incrementer hits, it will become 10. 10 is not less than 10, so it will drop out of the loop and print our done statement. So there's 3 parts of a for loop we have to be concerned with. The first part is the initializer. This declares an integer variable and sets the starting value. In that case, we wanted I to start at 0. The second part is the test expression. This decides when the loop is going to stop. In this case, the loop is going to continue as long as I is less than 10. If I becomes greater than or equal to 10, that will be false and the loop will stop. The third part is the incrementer, and this determines how much to add or subtract from the variable each time through the loop. Note that we can change the incrementer. For example, if I wanted to count by 2's, I could say int I equals 2, I less than or equal to 10, and then for my incrementer, I could say I plus equals 2. And if you remember our expressions lesson, plus equal 2 will add 2 to the current variable. So I would start as 2, then 4, 6, 8, 10. It would become 12. The test expression would fail, and it would fall out of the loop. We can also count down by subtracting. Here I starts at 10. It's going to go as long as I is greater than 0, and it's going to subtract 1 every time. So in this case, our output is going to be to print 10 all the way down to 1. When it becomes 1, it's going to go to the top of the loop, subtract 1, it becomes 0. 0 is not greater than 0. It terminates the loop. There's 2 statements with loops that I want to make you aware of. The first is the break statement. Break will immediately exit the current innermost loop. And here we've got an example of some code. We've got a for loop that's going to print the numbers from 1 to 10. However, inside the loop, I've said that if I is equal to 3, I want you to break. So I starts as 1, I is not equal to 3, so it prints it. It becomes 2, because the incrementer adds 1. Again, 2 is not equal to 3, so it prints it. When I becomes 3, the if statement will be true, and it will run the break statement. Break exits the loop. So our output is going to be just to print 1 and 2, and then leave the loop. The other numbers will not be printed. We also have something called the continue statement. Unlike the break, continue just sends you back to the top of the current loop. So again, here's a code sample. Same thing. I is going from 1 to 10. However, I've said that if I is equal to 3 or I is equal to 5, continue. Since continue sends you back to the top of the loop, the console.writeLine statement will not be executed if I is 3 or 5. So the result of that is printing all the numbers except we're skipping 3 and 5, so we see 1, 2, 4, 6. Do note that break and continue work for any type of loop, not just for loops, so we can use them in whiles as well. Typically, you're going to use break when you're looking for a certain condition to happen, like perhaps we have a list of things that we're searching through and we found one. There's no need to search the rest of the list, so we can break out of the loop and be done with it. Continue is usually when we want to skip something because something happened. Like in our guessing game, we could have used the continue statement if the user entered a number that wasn't in the range of 1 to 20. We could have just gone back to the top of the loop and prompted them again.